Welcome back to the Transform Your Mind to Transform Your Life, the podcast. You're listening to Authors Corner, where we highlight and showcase our local authors. Today, I am speaking to Mitch Francis. He is the author of Badass Solutions for Today's Big Ass Problems. Love it. Welcome, Mitch.
Myrna, thanks for having me.
You're very welcome. And Mitch and I are going to be focusing our conversation today on the topic combating global warming, stopping the oceans from rising. So let me give you a brief synopsis. Mitch Francis tackles the big ass problems that threatens our future, offering badass solutions designed to spark real change. His proposals range from eliminating the U.S. national debt and reforming public education to addressing the rise of ocean levels and dismantling the criminal drug world. Each chapter of the book presents a thought-provoking, actionable plan and aim making a significant impact. Learn more at badasssolutions.com. Yes, yes.
Thank you.
We
I
are
think we're finished.
Well, we got to give them a little more detail, all right? That
Okay.
was just a
Okay.
synopsis.
All right.
Yes, I mean, sounds great. You sound like you're touching on all the problems that we have now. So I love it. All right.
That was the idea.
Yeah, all right. So I wanted to focus specifically on our talk today, about talking about the oceans rising and addressing the causes of global warming. Now, it's really interesting because there's a show that I just watched last night, and it was about a tsunami that
Hmm.
destroyed the world. And of course, I just finished watching a movie, La Palma, that was about tsunamis. So, yeah, I know why tsunamis happen,
Right.
but what's going on with the levels of the oceans rising?
Well, it is a different cause.
Yeah.
And let me just give you some backup. Let's go backward a little bit.
Mhm.
That the global warming has is very serious. It's happening, and some people debate what the cause was. If it's fossil fuels, if it's the normal cycles of the planet, but the Earth is warming. Last year, 2024 was the hottest temperatures on Earth in recorded history. And it keeps going. Myrna, like every month is hotter, versus the prior year month, and every year keeps getting hotter. And what's happening is the polar ice caps are melting, and they're melting at a rate. It's pretty astounding. They're melting at a rate that would fill 20 Olympic-sized swimming pools every second.
Ooh, that's
It's hard to
big.
even get your arms around that. But
Wow.
that's what's going on. And by the end of this century, all coasts, coastal cities, and islands are going to be flooded.
Mm.
Incredibly, Myrna, nobody is doing anything about this.
Hmm.
We're headed for a global socioeconomic catastrophe that's beyond anything that's ever, in my view, anything that's ever happened in humankind.
Well,
And
it's interesting. The movie that I was watching, and of course, this is all fiction, but maybe based on some of the things that you're talking about, it was the ice falling into the ocean that created the big old wave.
oh,
It
okay.
wasn't global warming, but I think it was maybe
Well,
a
tsunami is
volcano or
usually
something.
caused by an earthquake.
Right, right, yeah, right.
Yeah.
An earthquake or I think the earthquake was caused by a an eruption, a volcanic eruption,
Oh,
and then the ice melted and everything, it started a big old
like
300
a
foot wave, if you can think about it.
it's like a
But
triple
yeah, so,
whammy.
right. Which is why I wanted to have this conversation with you because I wanted to know what it is that we're doing. We're not having a volcano, and what is it that we're doing to contribute
Well,
to that? And what are you offering in your book that would help solve that?
So I actually found how we can stop the ocean levels from rising and at the same time use all that fresh water for the billions of people who live on our planet in the most harsh, parched conditions. So it's pretty exciting that I was able to come up with a really good solution for this.
Okay, tell us
If
about
you
the
have time,
solution.
I'll be happy to go into detail.
Yeah, go on. Sure. Go into details.
So
At least a
I,
synopsis detail.
okay. I found that as much as is melting, there's 20 Olympic-sized swimming pools every second. I was shocked to discover that that's only a small fraction of the water that's going into our oceans from just our 20 largest rivers. So our rivers, get snow melt and rain, and then along their path distribute, water for human consumption, for irrigation, all of that. And then what's left over goes into the ocean. And that's, part of the cycle, the engine of our planet.
Mhm.
So even that water going into the ocean is critically important. But I discovered that if we channel just 7% of the water from our 20 largest rivers and move it to the most arid lands on our
Mhm.
planet, we can actually stop the ocean levels from rising
Okay,
and at the same time stop hunger and thirst.
that sounds
So
good to me.
it,
Yeah.
it, it yeah, I'm very excited about this because it's got a two-pronged benefit. It not only, saves all the coasts and cities and islands,
Hmm.
and we're talking about millions and millions of people being displaced, but it
Okay.
also, has the potential of bringing fresh water to people who don't have it. You know that half the people on our planet don't have access to sanitary conditions.
Yeah, I know.
25% don't have access to fresh water.
Yeah, I know. They're building wells, but your solution sounds a whole lot better because you're bringing a lot more than a little well. Right.
Yeah,
Right.
this
Okay.
could change the world. I mean, it really could.
Okay.
So I'm really very excited about it, and it's actually gotten quite a lot of very positive response. Before the book was published, Jack Canfield, who
Oh.
wrote Chicken Soup for the Soul,
Hmm.
read the book, and he's an environmentalist, and he
Okay.
loved this particular solution so much that he actually wrote the foreword to the book.
Oh, that's beautiful. All
Yeah, so
right. Well,
that was
listen.
very nice.
From your mouth to someone's ears that can make a difference. So we're not going to go into that anymore, but they just have to pick up a copy of your book and look at see how you are suggesting. Now, are you an environmentalist? Are you a what is your technical skills here?
I'm a business guy. I
Okay.
have a 40-year business career where I was the founder and CEO of publicly traded companies, of private companies. I developed commercial real estate. I still own and manage commercial real estate all over the US.
Okay.
And, just like any business person, in order to reach your goals, you have roadblocks
Hmm.
thrown in your way, Myrna, it seems like every day.
Of
And
course.
you've got to become skilled at problem solving.
Solving.
How do
Yes.
I get past that roadblock?
Yes. That's true.
And it is true. And it's for every business person. If they're going to succeed, they've got to develop these skills.
Okay.
And I've been around so long that I think I've been able to develop really strong uh, uh, problem solving skills. And I found that if I applied those same skills to the huge societal problems that we have, it was really the same methodology. And I was able to
As a
develop all
CEO,
of these
right. I love it.
solutions.
Yes.
And I set out not to be political. The book
Right.
is nonpartisan. I think everybody's so sick of, the two parties and fighting each other that things don't get done.
Right. Right.
So
Yeah, it's
I
all
was
it's
only,
all about politics and
yeah,
yes, Democrats and Republicans and everybody wants to win
they have
and
their own agenda and things just
right.
don't get
Yeah,
done.
exactly. And it's
So
all
I
about making
pursued,
yourself look good. You're right, while everybody else suffers. That's great. Now, one of the things that Trump is doing is trying to tackle the national debt. Now, a lot of people do not like how he's going about it, but you have a badass solution for that as well. Can you talk about that?
I do. I do. And it is different. We have $36 trillion of debt, and that debt is growing by another hundred, I'm sorry, by another $1 trillion every 100 days. So our country is just drowning in debt, and particularly interest payments that we have to make on that debt. So I took a look around, and I saw that um, the solutions that people are putting forth, including President Trump and Elon Musk and all, they're saying that we're going to stop spending so much. We're going to lower taxes. We're going to raise taxes. But let me give you some perspective and why none of those things will work.
Good.
$36 trillion is equal to all of the taxes brought into the federal government over 7 years, which means if the government didn't spend a single penny, it would take 7 years to pay off the debt. So, reducing spending, it's important, but it's not going to pay off the debt. You know, Taxing more is not going to pay off the debt. It's just gotten too big. We're in too deep of a hole.
Yeah,
So I have,
let me put something in here. I think I read somewhere, well, not I read, I went to a seminar and they were talking about this national debt. And they said that in order to get rid of it, each person in the United States would have to pay $336,000 or something along those lines in taxes.
it's each
Right,
taxpayer. So
right,
it's like
right.
$100,000 for every single person in the US, like $105,000. But on the actual taxpayer, you're about right on that figure. So it just can't happen, over any kind of short period of time with any kind of short program. It's just not going to work. So we need to do something that's really radical, really different. And it's kind of interesting. Just a rhetorical question for you and your audience is, well, effectively, we're bankrupt, which means you have more debt than assets. But if you look at this interestingly, it's if the US is bankrupt, how is it that have the strongest, biggest economy in the world? It doesn't make much sense. We're 30% bigger than China. And catch this, we're 15 and a half times bigger than Russia. So I looked at this with,
Lost
completely.
me here. I don't know anything about economics, so you tell me.
Well, this is this is going to be maybe more deep into the weeds than you want to go. But for most of the U.S. history, the U.S. was on what was called the gold standard, and you've probably heard of that. The gold standard was really kind of an interesting thing, where the policy was that the U.S., the government, could print paper dollars, paper bills equal to the amount of gold that was in Fort Knox. And it was a very pure exchange that for some period of time, citizens were able to exchange like a $20 bill for $20 worth of gold. Pretty interesting. But it was the value that let America print dollar bills and pay for goods and services and put that money to work in the system. And that we went off the gold standard during the Nixon administration in the 70s. And in my opinion, that was like the beginning of the government deficit spending. They didn't have to spend money, that was equal to the amount of gold, just go crazy. And they did. So we have this problem right now. But I looked around
Yeah,
and
let
in
me input something there. This same
yeah,
seminar that I went to, that's exactly what they're talking about. They said the same exact thing. They said that at one point in time, the US would keep the gold and then they stopped trading with it or something like that. I mean,
yeah.
but it's wrapped up in the same gold statement that you're saying. Right. And
Right.
even this morning, someone was talking about this gold as well. So keep going.
Well, here's where I take off from that point.
Mhm.
So being a business person, for 40 years, I know a great deal of accounting. And I applied like business accounting principles to this problem. And I looked at this as with the US is like a corporation, and in a
Mhm.
way it is.
It is.
And I said, look, if we were accountants, we would look at the US and say, well, the US has a lot more assets than just its gold. It's got vast lands and parks and
Mhm.
minerals inside the land and and ships and planes and military installations and schools and hospitals and just on and on and on, huge amounts of assets that are actually much much bigger than just our gold. So again, using accounting principles, we would say the US isn't bankrupt because it has all of these assets.
Assets. Right.
So I created what I call the asset standard instead of the gold standard, the
Mhm.
asset standard. And now I say, well, look, the same way that the gold standard let us print money, the asset standard will let us write checks. It's the same thing. So we send a check to China. China has $1 trillion of our debt. They bought, treasury securities just like you can, anybody else, and we owe them $1 trillion. Send them a check with a thank you note. Thanks very much. We're paying you back. And we send that to everybody, making up the whole $36 trillion. And the question becomes, will they cash the check?
Yeah. Is it
And
good?
that's right. And will it clear? That's exactly right,
That's
Myrna.
what I'm saying. Is this check good?
Yes, because listen, the China and your Aunt Molly are going to run and deposit those checks, and they will clear. They're going to be written on the United States Bank, which is called the Federal Reserve Bank. And the
Mm,
Federal Reserve will clear it just the way they cleared transactions on the gold standard
mm.
because there was value in back of that currency.
Okay.
Now, we just paid off the whole debt,
Okay. That's a
but
badass solution.
it's badass, I'll tell you. But it's so badass. Let me tell you something. It's so badass that it's dangerous. If we let our Congress have this, ability to, to
Write
spend
checks.
anything we want ever, anything more than, this and maybe a few other benefits is going to hurt the country. So I do think we can pay off our debt. We can pay off the underfunded programs like Medicare and Social Security, fix public schools really well, create a fund for emergencies, like if we have another pandemic. But after that, I think we have to have a constitutional amendment that requires the federal government to have a balanced budget. It literally won't be able to spend money that
Mhm.
it didn't bring in from taxes. So this never
Mm.
happens again.
That's good. That's good. That's good. Yeah. Yeah. Checks and balances. I love it.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Yes.
So we can go out to lunch. We just paid off the debt.
Yeah. That's good. I mean, people need to read your book to get all the details of that. That's great. We're just highlighting it here.
Well,
Now, one
thank
of
you.
the other things that you said is that you want to reform, you have a solution for reforming public education. So my question is, what exactly is wrong with public education? I know that that's one of the things that Trump is doing. He is, getting rid of the Department of Education. What exactly do you guys think is wrong with public education?
Well, I find two big problems. The first one is our kids are not being well educated and they're testing worse than they've tested in decades. So talking math skills, science skills, reading skills, and we are far behind other first world countries of their testing levels. So, you need an educated populace for the success and ongoing success of the country. So and of course the personal success of our population, you've got to be well educated, you've got to get a good job, et cetera, et cetera. So our educational system right now is doing a very poor job of educating our kids. And I also believe we have another big problem in our country of a Grand Canyon divide between the rich and the poor. And I believe a big part of that problem, the cause of that problem, is the public schools. And what I mean by that is you have the people, the wealthiest people in our country who have the most influence, put their kids in private schools. So they don't care. They're not in the dialogue of public schools at all because their kids aren't there. So you've got the middle class and the lower class of kids in public schools having to compete with wealthy kids whose parents are paying 15 to $45,000 a year for those kids to get an incredible education. And there are good public schools. There are lots and lots of parents who care deeply about getting their kids a great education. They work with them. There are kids who work real hard. But on the whole, kids who have a private education are really far ahead of kids from private schools. And what that translates to is they get into better schools. They have an easier time in university, in continuing that level of education, and then they get the good jobs. So what happens is we perpetuate the wealthy people in our country so that that gap continues where it is and even grows, the gap between the rich and poor. So I believe, what? Let me add another thing.
What's your solution?
Well,
I mean, I agree with everything that you say. So, what is your solution? Everybody goes to a private school, or, well,
no,
yeah,
just
I'm
the
interested in
opposite.
this solution.
Just the opposite, Myrna.
Okay,
Outlaw I'm sorry, private schools. Can't have them. Everybody has to be in public schools. So we put the wealthy people
I
with
got
the
you.
most influence back into the public school system. And they care then. They
And the
want to make
wealthy
sure that
parents will fund it. Is that what you're saying?
well, they see that schools get the funding. They're the ones with the influence in our
Right.
country. They'll see that the schools get the funding. They have quality teachers, good teachers for what they should have, get great equipment, great facilities, security, exactly where they want their kids to be educated. Only everybody's going to be educated that way. And I'll tell you something, our founding fathers thought that the success of our country, the success of democracy, would would be the result of everybody having equal opportunity. And right now, we don't. If you have public schools and private schools, you don't have equal opportunities. If everybody's in public schools, there's an equal opportunity for everybody to succeed. And we need that for our country
I
to
actually
succeed.
like it. My daughter right now is looking for houses that have great schools so that she doesn't have to pay for private school because you're right.
Right.
A lot of the areas don't have good schools and they've recognized it. And then I have a cousin that's sending her 5-year-old to a private school and spending $20,000 a year because the public schools in her area are crap. So I understand what you're saying, but is that far-fetched? Are they ever going to do that? I doubt it.
Well, I'll tell you something. Here's my hope that, I've got 20 big ass problems that I've got solutions to in this book. And
Hmm.
I'm hoping that one or more of these touch people, that they want to get involved.
Okay.
And, our government, our representatives work for us. We don't work for them. And we kind of
Right.
forget that. So if you believe, let's say you want to see this go into effect about the schools, you start by telling your family. Change happens at the dinner table. You
Hmm.
tell your friends. this is this amazing idea about fixing our schools for all kids. You write to your representatives. You get other people with you. You get involved. And nothing's going to happen unless that happens. And we can all make a difference. I'm real big into quotes. And there's a fabulous quote that is really kind of the theme of my book
Mhm.
that's from Mahatma Gandhi,
Mm.
who said,
Be the
when the
change.
people,
Be the
sorry,
change you need to see. No.
a different one. He said, when the people lead, the leaders will follow.
I like that
And
one. I don't know if I've heard that
me
one
too.
before. Right.
Me too. And that's what I'm after. Get people together, make this change happen. It's in our power. That's a democracy. We have the power to make change.
Yeah, that's good. That's good. Hey, we've touched on three out of your 20 big ass problems, and they're all good ones.
They're pretty good.
So, yes, they're all good ones. I like that. So we have a few minutes, so I'm going to ask the curious question. So, what's with Trump getting rid of public education? I mean, the Department of Public Education. Is he on your same path, or what path is he on?
I think frustration. I think everybody's frustrated, and we've had the Department of Education for several decades now, and it's clearly not being effective. Maybe the whole problem isn't with the Department of Education, but it's not working. So I think Trump is saying, well, let's get rid of something that's not working and try to find out what we can do that will work.
Well, is
So
he going to say that everybody goes to private school then? I mean, I don't get
I
it. I mean, I
I
don't
think we
follow him
gotta
very closely, so I just
I
know when
think I
he's
think we gotta
chopping.
send him the book.
You're going to send him the book, right?
Yeah,
Yes.
yeah. Wait a
Yeah.
second.
Once you get rid of the Department of
Hello,
Education, what is left is what is this? What is his solution?
hello, Elon. Oh, I think that's where this happens when people start talking about this and start
Yes,
saying, "Here's a good solution we can get behind." And I'll tell you something kind of interesting. There are 5 times more kids in public schools than private schools.
of course.
So translate that into votes. That
Right.
means you've got a super majority
Hmm.
of citizens who would vote for this, right?
Yeah, yeah, of
We
course.
have this
I
power. I
think
mean,
a lot of people will get behind this idea.
it's
I
in
mean,
our hands to
yep,
make this
yep,
happen if people want it,
yes,
because I mean, the votes are there.
yes,
The
yes,
votes are there to
yes.
make this happen.
And your concept is correct. And everything starts with education. Yes, your kids needs a proper education, and you're right. The public education is getting worse because you're right. I mean, I read someplace just last week where somebody came out of graduated and went to college, and she's illiterate. She doesn't know anything because you're right. It's the education system is getting worse. Parents have to be doing most of the educating because the class sizes are big and public. But
Right.
right, again, because there's such a, I love what you said, a Grand Canyon divide between the rich and the poor, and very few people can go and pay $40,000 for a 5-year-old. Maybe they're gonna
It's
pay forty
insane,
thousand
isn't
for
it?
somebody in university, but
Right.
but that's what they're doing. They're saying that they want to start their kids in kindergarten, and because they're not learning anything. And I had the argument to my daughter. I'm thinking, what are you learning in kindergarten? Why are you going to spend all that money? But
Right.
they're going by, they've understood, all my kids went to public schools because I couldn't afford private schools. So
Right.
I'm still in the public school mindset. I'm thinking, what's wrong with the public school?
Well,
But
I
you
think
just
I think
highlighted
today,
it. Yes.
I think today in private kindergarten, they're teaching kids how to read. They're
Yes.
starting them that young.
Yes.
So
Yes.
look what that says.
Yes.
Right from the first day of kindergarten, you're
Yes.
making this elite class.
Yes. It's true.
That's a bad thing for us.
And in public school, all they're doing is, drawing.
Yeah, that's what the other kids are doing. Yeah, right.
They're drawing,
How are they
right?
going to
Yes.
compete? You know, we're
Okay.
effectively creating what was in Europe a landed aristocracy,
Mm.
where the rich stayed rich
Right. Well, of
and the
course.
poor
That's
stayed.
America. That's America for you. But
And we
I'm
can
glad that
change
you
it, Myrna.
highlighted where it starts, and where it
And
starts is the education. That's good. It's
yeah,
good.
yeah.
Yes.
No, I want the country to succeed.
Yes.
And I think the wealthy people can recognize that they have a benefit here too, of the country succeeding. You know, when this chasm between rich and poor gets too big, you know what happens? Revolution.
Mm.
You
Yeah.
know,
Yeah.
when the majority of people are unhappy and unsuccessful and
Yeah.
struggling,
Right.
well, revolution, is not too far away.
Yeah. It's
So
right.
for
It
wealthy
is coming.
people to preserve what they have, they
Mhm.
better make sure that there's equal opportunity for everybody, not
Mhm.
just their kids.
Yeah. Oh, hey, we can talk forever on that because that's the climate that we're in right now in this country. So it's amazing. All right. Well, listen, I am very excited to be able to present your book to my
Thank you.
listening audience. Any of the world changers that want to get involved in what's going on, then definitely go and pick up a copy of Mitch's book. So tell our listeners where they can pick up a copy of your book, your website, and if you're on social media, then what are your social media handles?
All right, thanks for that. So the book is available, anywhere books are sold. The easiest is Amazon. It's Badass Solutions with or without a hyphen. And the website is bad-ass-solutions.com. And there's all kinds of additional information, and there are links to buy the book on that as well. And there's you can contact me through the website if you have any interest in talking to me about it. And I hope you get it because there's a lot of good things in there, and it's actually kind of a fun read. I know we're talking about big, difficult topics, but I think I've made it kind of enjoyable.
Hmm. Well, yeah. I mean, all you need to do is plant the seeds, right? Inception. And
Good
they will
point.
grow.
Good point.
Yes, awesome. All right. So, yes, I will have a summary of my conversation with Mitch on the show page, which is myhelps.us. I would also link out to his website and his book. So, definitely go pick up a copy. Um, we touched on three big problems, but there's 17 more in his book. And hey, yes, like Michael Jackson would say, be the change, right? The man in the mirror, right?
Yes.
If there's things
Yes.
that you want to see changed, then get involved. So it's great that Mitch took the initiative to write this book and to start the conversation. So good work. Good job.
Thanks, Myrna. Thank you for having me. I've enjoyed being with you.
You're very welcome. Yes, thank you for being on the show. All right, guys. Well, listen, thank you for tuning in to this week's episode of Author's Corner. Again, we were talking about the book Badass Solutions for Today's Big Ass Problems. Go pick up a copy of it, support Mitch, and get some ideas into the inception form. And like you said, we can make the difference by contacting our legislative people and making demands. The last interview I had on the show, we were talking about climate change. And that's basically, what the author is saying. She's a scientist, and she said it starts at your school. It starts in to your parent-teacher meetings. You just, yeah, you start small and you make things happen. And yeah, she was doing really great things, but getting rid of diesel fuel and talking about, you know, um, uh, the cars that we drive, things that we can do to make a difference, for climate change, which is basically why I wanted to have the conversation with you. I wanted to know how we are contributing to the oceans rising, but you talked about the rivers are contributing is not necessarily something that we're doing as far as our habits. So, but anyway, so it's good to highlight. Yep. Okay. All right. So as we wrap up, Mitch, any last words?
Uh, no, yes, get involved. Thank you,
Yeah,
Myrna.
get involved, right? You can be the
Um,
difference. All right. All right, guys. Well, listen, we're fresh out of time. So thank you, Mitch, for being on the show. Thank you guys for tuning in. If you have a comment on any big ass problems, then we'd love to hear from you. If you're watching this on YouTube, we'd love to hear your comments and get involved. So thanks again for tuning in. Thank you, Mitch, for being on the show. Until next time, namaste.